Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands Podcast. I'm your host, Frank Fiume, here live at the IFA 2024 National Convention, and looking forward to interviewing some folks at this year's event. I have Dennis Cieri from Fitness Factory Health Clubs. Dennis, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
Nice to meet you. So, Fitness Factory, tell me about what you guys do and what makes you different, because, you know, the fitness sector is pretty busy, right? It's pretty big.
Yeah, it's a competitive landscape, but the industry is booming, and particularly in our marketplace, which is the central northern New Jersey and New York metro area. We really differentiate with a few different ways, but the first and foremost is we make sure that all of our locations are the top locations with great visibility, great signage, great parking, great access, and if it's in the city or in a much more urban environment, we just signed a deal where it's right outside a subway stop in New York City, in Manhattan. So it really has to be a great location, good lease with the landlord where there's light at the end of the tunnel very soon. We want to know that it's going to be profitable very soon. And then all of our operations and procedures just goes on top of being in a great location. Because you could be a great operator and be in a secondary location and just never be as good as a non-great operator who just has a fantastic facility in a great location, and you'll always be playing second best to that person.
Right. So how many locations do you guys have altogether?
We have 7 corporate right now, 8 franchised, 2 under construction, 1 corporate, 1 franchised, a lease out for signing, and a couple of franchisees that are just getting on board with the FDD and just learning about the brand, but are very interested.
Congrats, you guys are moving and grooving.
For our size, it's a very big percentage of growth. I mean, we're a small company, but we want to manage our growth and get our arms around, say, 3 to 5 locations a year. Just make sure that they're very, very high quality locations, that everybody's taken care of properly, and not just grow too quickly and do 10, 20, 30 a year. That's just, that's too much for us right now. We want to have slow, methodical, smart growth.
That's great. Is this your first IFA?
It is our first IFA. I'm very pleasantly surprised. I didn't know what to expect in coming out here. And I mean, it's just fantastic, the help that we've been getting from other franchisors who have been in our shoes, not necessarily in the gym business, but in, other businesses, but at our stage of growth, and, what we should be looking at, what we should be doing, what our 5-year plan is, which I've never really thought too much of before. But, these are all very important things, and we have so many takeaways from this event that we're going to be busy all week just putting it all together and saying, okay, let's start prioritizing of, what we should be doing based on, what we learned at the IFA.
That's great, and we're only in day 2.
Yes, we're in day 2. We have another day tomorrow.
You have a full day tomorrow of this with a lot of sessions. So would you mind sharing maybe what are top 1 or 2 things that you can't wait to get back to implement?
Just some of the things with our franchisees, so that when we can understand their business much better in a standardized reporting sort of thing, chart or analysis, that we can say, okay, listen, we're seeing this, and we can help you here, we can help you there. We see that your numbers are down over here, or just as important, you're doing great here, you're doing great there, and double down on what you're doing really well.
Sure. Yeah, I think starting out, I had franchised a company 20 years ago, and I don't think I had my KPIs down pat from the very beginning. I just wanted them to get members, and members turn into registrations, and registrations, of course, were revenue. But having those key performance indicators early on and helping our franchisees measure it, because as we know, what doesn't get measured doesn't get managed, right?
Right. So we've been in the business since 1998. That was our first club. And we grew 7 corporate clubs over the years, so we're operators, and we just got into franchising a year and a half ago by purchasing a different brand and converting those locations to our Fitness Factory brand, one at a time, just making sure that our standards were being met for them to convert. And so we have the benefit of providing our franchisees with real data, knowing that something works. Like if we're ever going to try something new, we try it in a corporate club first in one location. Then we roll it out to the rest of the corporate clubs to make sure it works in all locations. And then we bring it to the franchisees. So it's really been tried and tested to make sure that it's a successful process or procedure before we just throw something on them and say, we think this is going to be good and you should do it.
Right.
That's not right. We want to make sure that we get to test it first, and if it's bad, then we'll know it right away, and we'll drop it and say, let's go with something else.
Right. Yeah, we don't want our franchisees to be guinea pigs, right? We want our own living laboratory. You've been doing this 25 years now. I mean, that's incredible. So since you're newer at franchising, you're perfect to answer this question, and that is this: if I was an aspiring franchisor or looking to franchise my concept, what would be maybe a piece of advice you'd give me?
I would say to come to the IFA, and there's some other events around the country, but for sure come to the IFA and speak to people smarter than you in this industry. When I say in this industry, the franchisor industry, not necessarily the specific business that they're in, because it's here where you learn everything about franchising and the do's and don'ts and the tricks of the trade, and you come away from this event with such great takeaways that it's invaluable, and whatever it costs to come here and coming here and spending a weekend and now a Monday, and it's time away from family and business and everything, but it's worth it, in my opinion.
That's awesome. Dennis, that's great advice. Thank you so much for being on. Appreciate it. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.